Marcus Reed had never imagined that the worst year of his life would also become the most transformative. At 34, he was starting over from nothing. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. His divorce had been finalized on a cold Tuesday morning, and by Wednesday he was moving his 7-year-old daughter Lily into a small 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. The walls were thin, the heating was unreliable, and the carpet smelled faintly of someone else's life. But it was theirs, and Marcus told himself that was enough. He told himself that every single day, even when he didn't believe it, he had full custody of Lily, which was the one thing in his life that still felt like a victory. His ex-wife Elena had chosen a different path, one that didn't include school runs and bedtime stories. And while that truth broke something deep inside Marcus, he refused to let it break his daughter. Every morning, he packed her lunch with a little handwritten note tucked inside. Every evening he read to her until she fell asleep. He was exhausted in a way that no amount of sleep could fix. But he kept moving because Lily needed him to. His job at Harrington Financial Services was the only stable thing left in his life. He worked as an administrative coordinator, quiet and efficient, the kind of employee who always stayed late and never asked for credit. His boss, Diana Harrington, owned the firm her late father had built. She was 38, sharp-minded, and carried herself with a kind of composed elegance that made most people assume she was untouchable. She rarely smiled in meetings, never joined the office lunches, and kept her personal life completely separate from her professional one. Most employees found her intimidating. Marcus simply found her fair, and that was more than he could say about most people in his life. It was a Thursday afternoon when everything shifted. Marcus was organizing contracts in the small conference room when Diana stepped inside and quietly closed the door. She stood near the window for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully, and then she turned to him with something in her eyes he had never seen before. Something uncertain and almost vulnerable, she said in a voice barely above a whisper. "Marcus, I need to ask you something unusual, and I need you to hear me out before you respond." He nodded, confused. She told him that her mother was gravely ill and had one wish before she passed, which was to see Diana settled and married. Diana had been engaged once, years ago, to a man who had broken her in ways she had never fully shared with anyone. She'd closed herself off since then, focused entirely on the company, and had told herself that was enough. But watching her mother fade was breaking through every wall she had carefully built. She wasn't asking for romance, she explained. She was asking if Marcus would consider a quiet arrangement, a temporary marriage on paper, something that would give her mother peace in her final weeks. She would compensate him generously, help with Lily's schooling, and they would go their separate ways once it was done. She said she had chosen him because he was honest, because she had watched him for 2 years and knew the kind of man he was, and because she trusted him more than anyone else she knew, which she admitted was a sad reflection of how alone she had become. Marcus sat with the silence for a long moment. He thought about Lily, about the apartment with the bad heating, about the hollow feeling he carried around every day. He thought about how strange it was that two people could be, surrounded by others and still be profoundly lonely. He said yes, not because of the money, but because something in her honesty cracked open a part of him he had been protecting. What began as a formal arrangement slowly became something neither of them had planned for. They had dinners together with Lily present, and Diana, who had always seemed distant, turned out to be quietly wonderful with children. She helped Lily with a school project on volcanoes and stayed 2 hours past she intended. Marcus began driving Diana's mother to her medical appointments when Diana had important meetings, and the older woman, sharp and warm and full of old stories, became unexpectedly dear to him. He and Diana started talking, really talking long after Lily was asleep, about grief and fear and what it meant to feel like you had failed at the things that mattered most. One evening, sitting on the porch with cold cups of tea between them, Diana said quietly that she didn't want the arrangement to end. Marcus looked at her for a long moment and said he didn't either. Diana's mother passed peacefully 6 weeks later, with a smile on her face and her daughter's hand in hers. At the small gathering afterward, Lily took Diana's hand without being asked and simply held it. That was the moment Marcus knew that life had offered him something rare and real, a second chance wrapped in the most unexpected circumstances. And this time he was wise enough to hold on. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness True. Stories for more emotional and inspiring stories just like this one.